stage, silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn, because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Time's gone by, I've traded like dirt into clay. I thought my memories would end. One street over's now 1,000 miles away. When I close my eyes, I'm back to where I've been. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn, because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
And yes, this is one street over from where you live in. Well, today I have my sister, Lisa Forte, is in the house, and she is here from Redeem Her Now, right?
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
My brain is just like, this morning. I was telling, I love visiting with my sisters. I just do. I love all my reoccurring guests, but yes, Lisa and Rachel are my two favorites because it's us girls and we're talking Jesus, and it's just good. So welcome to it. You're going to have some good stuff this morning, but I do have to address something real quickly, because I don't like talking about the things going on with my health. I'm just very private about that kind of stuff. I mean, I'll tell you, okay, I got my knees replaced, all that. But yet I went to the Isaiah 117 house dinner last night, and probably shouldn't have tried to go. I have injured my knee, my right knee, somehow. It's not the replacement joint. They're doing great. They're fabulous. I don't know what I've done to my knee. They had to wheel me out of there last night. I'm fine. I've had so many people, are you okay? You know, I'm like, I'm good. I don't know what's going on. I probably see some laparoscopic surgery in my future, hopefully next week, so it doesn't interfere with school. But I don't know what I did. And it comes down to whenever you have something like a knee replacement, you're supposed to take it a little bit easier than I did. So, I mean, right? Lisa's a physician's assistant, so nurse practitioner. Okay, nurse practitioner. But it's kind of the same thing. It really is.
Kind of.
But so from a medical perspective, right, I'm supposed to take it easier than I probably did. I mean, I went to Mexico 6 weeks after my surgery, and that's the one that's giving me some issues. I don't know what I did to it, but the replacement joints are bueno. They're fabulous, but I've done something to my knee, and yes, I was trying to get out of there last night. Because I had 11 people coming. That's because you're supposed to do a table of 8. And sweet Martin Morgan, they helped me get that table full and then spill over onto another table. Judge Joel Perry was there. My student, Alex Maddox. What young person, teenager, comes to one of those fundraising dinners and makes a donation? God bless you. You're such a special, wonderful young man. Just love him to pieces. But had all these people coming, I just could not go. I just couldn't be like, you just hate to I was like, I can do this. I was like, I can do anything for an hour. It was rough. Because I was hurting. I didn't know, because it's all just swelling. It's all it is. It's just when the joint swells, it is excruciating. And I mean, I've injured myself in the past, but oh my goodness, I've nod to Northcrest. Last Friday night, it happened for the first time because I had really worked hard and I was, swimming hard, and I was like, I'm great. I'm going hiking tomorrow. And my knee just went out. Whatever I did to it. And I thought I was having a blood clot or something. Went to Northcrest. My gosh, y'all were so good to me, and you just took such good care of me. God bless y'all. I'm so glad we've got such a strong local hospital. Y'all are awesome. And so anyway, but I just had to let it settle down, And then I had an episode Tuesday morning. And then yesterday, like a knucklehead, I was feeling good leaving school. And I was like, I'm going to stop at Walmart. And, Walmart's just walking. And by the time I was like, oh, no. And I could feel it kind of swelling again. But I'm like, I've got to go to this dinner. And so I got in there, I kind of limped in and just sat down, but it was hurting so bad the whole time. Everybody that was with my groups like, you want me to get you an ice pack? And I was like, we just need to get done and get me out of here. And when I stood up, I couldn't walk. So I had my husband on one side and Judge Jill Perry on the other, walking me out, trying really, no, I didn't make eye contact with anybody because I didn't want to make a scene because it was about the house, I just wanted to get out of there. And I waited until the end. Finally, Martin, he was trying to find a wheelchair to get me to the car. And because I couldn't walk on it. And so finally, Martin comes around. He has an office chair, kind of like the one I'm sitting in. And they wheeled me out to my car in an office chair. So, yeah, everybody in town knows what was wrong with the U-turn. I hurt myself, but I'm fine. And I hope we raised a lot of money last night for the Isaiah 117 house. I love you, Mitzi. She's just wonderful. Do you know what the Isaiah 117 house is?
I don't. I was going to ask you about that.
It is a house that, if you go and look up Mike Rowe, Isaiah 117 house, because when the woman who started this first did this, he did a story on it. And it's just the most wonderful thing. And it explains it better. But what happens when children have to be removed from a home, or removal day? It's traumatic. It's awful because they're whatever's going on in the home has forced, authorities to step in. And what typically happens all over the country is they will take them to a DCS office.
Yeah.
Okay. And they sit there until a foster family can be found. And they whatever they were able to, you probably got something maybe in a Kroger bag or a Walmart bag. And, probably dirty and, that kind of thing, maybe haven't eaten and they'll have to eat vending machine food, or that's typically what happens. And it will happen too that sometimes like right before the holidays, they'll be removing kids because the holidays are rough times for families. And a lot of removals happen around the holidays because that's a trauma time in families.
Right.
And so these kids will be sitting in offices, maybe sleeping on the floor in an office under a cubicle, waiting for it's once you really understand it, when you talk to DCS, public, what are they? What's the word I'm looking? Social workers. When you talk to the social workers and they tell you some of the stories, it's heartbreaking. And like Mitzi was saying last night, she says, we have them that we get them on their birthday, those kinds of things. But what the idea was by this woman is let's build a house to where when DCS removes a child, there's a place for them to go that's a home, that has a warm bed, a place where they can make chocolate chip cookies, and there's volunteers to love on them, and there's clothes, there's some new toys. They get a nice new tote bag and something that's theirs, and just encourage them. And one of the social workers that was there last night and spoke, she says the difference in the kids that I deal with that come out of it was a foster mom. She says, I've had kids that come out of an Isaiah house and then come straight from the DCS office because the difference is night and day. So it's just loving on these kids and giving them a place on their worst day of their life on a removal day. And Mitzi said last night, she says, and yes, we have had them that come in on their birthday. She says, but what's very interesting is that's God giving them a chance to have a birthday party because most of them have never had a birthday party, never. Yeah. And so they love on them and make birthday cakes. It's just an amazing program. It's just one of the most amazing programs. And so Isaiah 117 House, if you didn't get to go to the dinner yesterday and they had a luncheon too, a fundraiser, please look them up. Become a sock buddy, and then they'll send you some fun socks. But you can donate monthly and, reoccurring donation, and you'll be a sock buddy. And it's a great gift too for your family. I gifted that to my children several years ago, and that's part of their Christmas now is their sock buddies. And so, because our kids don't need anything, so I encourage you to really consider being a reoccurring donor to places like Isaiah House, to Decisions, Choices, and Options, which we had a fundraiser for on Tuesday, and for Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center, all these great nonprofits. Those are my three top ones, but I'm telling you, I'm sure there's tons of it. Cost is amazing. So just, I'm fine. I just want to say that. Everybody, I've been getting some, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just a knucklehead, and I got to obey my doctor's orders better. Hi. I just needed to kind of clarify that, so everybody didn't, LaVern went, well, she's dying. No, I just hurt my knee.
Well, it's not, yeah, like I say,
Yeah.
out in a wheelchair, out in an office chair, fine.
Yeah.
Stretcher, you might want to.
That's true. That's true. If they'd called an ambulance for me, it might have been a little bit different. Said, thank you, Judge Perry, for being my other prop as I was heading out of there. And oh, good heavens, it's just big girl like me doesn't want to have to be carried out somewhere. Okay,
Right.
I'm a big girl, and so you just don't want the embarrassment of that. If I was a little bitty thing, I'd be like, just pack me out of here, you know. But I'm not, and so.
Well, knowing what I know about you, even if you were this itty bitty tiny petite thing, I don't know that you would like being carried out
No,
either. So, I don't know.
You are accurate. You are accurate. You are accurate.
I think that would probably make you a little more feisty.
Possibly. Oh
it's
my
good.
goodness. Anyway, love you, sister. And
Love thee.
so many things are on my mind. What's on your mind?
Well, first I was going to ask you. So the Isaiah House, is that just in Robertson
Oh,
County?
no.
Like, where is that a national? Like,
Would love for it to be national. It has the potential to be, but you have to have a local community that's going to get behind it and help get it together. Because
Gotcha.
it's locally funded. And so Mitzi could tell you how many there are. I'm wanting to say there's something like 18 now in different counties. And maybe that's even that may be a wrong number. But, and I forget exactly where they started, but I don't think it was in Tennessee where they started. And there's one getting ready to open up in Davidson. And I think Sumner's got one getting ready to come about. But it is one of those things that, as we like to say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. But you think about these kids. There is a young boy. I said, I have a blog that if you want to look it up, it's LaVern Vivio. I met Joey today, and his name is Ty. And my daughter-in-law's cousin, her and her husband is an EMT. And he responded to a call one night, and this has been years ago now. And it was a woman had been beaten, by whoever, and got there, and they were taking care of her, and there was a little boy running around in a diaper. It was his birthday. He was 3, and it was freezing cold, and he had a T-shirt and a diaper on. And Sean just could not get him out of his mind because it was his birthday, and they were trying to help him, but he was just, and so he started visiting them. Him and Kristen started going and visiting and seeing, and said, can we help you with Ty? And they just fell in love with him. And eventually they said, would you possibly let somebody adopt him? And she was like, well, who? And he goes, me and my wife. And they ended up adopting Ty. And he is in 8th grade now. Just amazing story. But knowing his story and the interactions they had with him when they first brought him home and some of the things that he said, that reflected what he went through. Wow. Mm-hmm. And just an amazing young man and an amazing guitar player too. He's just like, he's just a cool kid. But anyway, listening to the stories that people like that are EMTs, my friend, Paul Rainey's on here. He was with fire department up in Nashville for, I want to say 41 years. Listening to any of those tell stories about what they have to see with these kiddos, just being neglected. It's incredible. So we need to do everything we can to help our kids. And Isaiah 117 House is a good way to do it. So yeah, it's an amazing program.
I feel like they get a front row seat, but also teachers do. I think that when we're not in those environments, like we don't think that happens in our backyard.
Oh, honey.
And what an opportunity for the church, though. Like,
absolutely.
what would coming alongside and loving on the mamas, and loving on these babies, and I mean, could you imagine like what it would be like if the church inundated the foster care system? Like, oh, we have 50 family, like this ongoing waiting list for foster homes. Is it hard? Yes. Is it an interruption? Absolutely. Is it convenient? No. But you show me where Jesus walked, and was it inconvenient? And did he have interruptions and all of the things? It's
so.
Wow. Yeah,
that's just it. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because that's one thing Mitzi mentioned last night, is that this is the call. I mean, to take care of the orphans and the widows. And I mean, it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And the foreigners, what is that? It's the widows and the orphans. I know, but there's one more. I forget. There's three people that we're supposed to take care of. And I think it's like, somebody get me that. I'll have to look it up. But you know what I mean? And there's something. It's like we take care of.
Well, I know he talks about the
widows
ones
and
in
orphans.
prison as well.
Yeah, the ones in prison. Maybe that's it. And but nonetheless, we've been, we've been called to take care of the kids. And the Possum Trot movie from Texas, where that church went in and just started adopting kids and doing all those kinds of things. And it takes a unique person to foster and adopt. I don't feel that call on my life, but I can certainly support those who do. Just like Mitzi was saying last night, you can come in and offer yourself to babysit and to help these foster families, to make some meals and do those things, right? And it's just an amazing thing. And Isaiah 117 house here locally, again, our kid places where you can really affect the lives of children. Isaiah 117 house, Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center, Decisions, Choices, and Options, CASA, Safe Baby Court. I mean, there's just all kinds of things, and can't say enough about it.
I do my search and it comes to Isaiah 117, but it also has both. It says, learn to do good, seek justice, help the oppressed, defend the cause of the orphans, and fight for the rights of widows.
Mm-hmm. So I think but there's one other one though too. I think I can't remember, but we'll figure it out and share it with you though. But I don't know. It's just there's so much on my mind right now, and then too watching. I tell you, I've been watching the stuff from the flood, and I was yesterday. I actually put something up for a minute, and then I ended up taking it down because I just thought, nah, I don't know. I didn't. I don't know. I did. But I was sitting at school, and when you're at school and you're grading papers and doing all that kind of things, I'll have something on watching it while I'm doing that. And I'll had some things about flood coverage. And I had this thing my friend Muriel had shared where this woman had gone in and her husband and boys had gone in to help clean up somewhere. Mm-hmm. And she was just talking about how all day people just kept showing up when they needed it. And she says it was so Jesus. She says, I just saw, and it was so funny, a whole gang of people came in with Isaiah 117 shirts on from the house. And I thought that's kind of ironic because we're going there to celebrate them tonight. And because there was some Isaiah 117 volunteers that came into the flood area. And just constantly, it's like, well, we need a shovel. Well, there's one right out here. We need a ladder. Or there's one that's washed up. And, well, we need a crowbar. And it's like, oh, there's a crowbar out there, too, that just had washed up in the debris. It was just Jesus. I mean, just God just providing. And but then I hear, the stories of these children that were swept out of their parents' arms, and it just hurts your heart so bad. And I got up and I was just walking across my classroom to get something to drink, and I just thought, I can't watch this.
Right.
And it hit me, that's got to be how God feels. But he still keeps watching.
Yeah.
Still keeps watching. And, people go, well, why doesn't he just intervene? Well, he does a lot. But working with Celebrate Recovery, he's not going to enable us. He's never enabled us. He's going to he had perfection in mind when he created us, and we fell, and he has to let us fall. Because if he doesn't let us exercise free will, which is what he created us to be, then we're not living up to our full potential. And so in a fallen world, yeah, he does. There's stories of miracles. I'm sure we'll hear all kinds of miracle stories on the other side of this too, along with the tragedies and the heartbreaks that just shatter you. But, I believe it's just, as we sit there and go, I can't watch this, I know he has to feel the same way.
Right.
But yet he does. And all things work for good for those that love the Lord, but all things are not good, but he will use them.
Right.
So that's
and then that he doesn't orchestrate them. One of the things that I've been studying the last couple of months, because it's a little bit of a shift, and it's like, and that is, we pray in the Lord's Prayer, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I started reading one of Miles Monroe's book about kingdom and kingdom principles. And he was like, if you look at the New Testament, Jesus talks about the kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. And he more so than he does, look at me, I'm your savior. Like he talks about kingdom. Right. And so if we look at what Jesus did in that kind of the reset, like he reset everything for us. So what was the initial charge Adam and Eve were given was to have dominion over earth like it is in heaven. So how many of the and I think that that we're beginning to wake up to this as the body of Christ, and that is there's things that we have authority here over on this planet because he's given us that jurisdiction as redeemed children, as his ambassadors. So, and it's like, okay, Lord, so what does that mean exactly? Like, if we're able to execute your kingdom here on earth, what is it that we're speaking and declaring and praying? Jesus spoke, peace be still. Right. And so we're like, he has control over everything in creation. Right. And if he's given us that ability, you know, whenever you, again, going back to what was Adam and Eve's assignment when they were in the garden, Jesus restored all of that to us. So it is some of those like, okay, Lord, so what? Yes, things are going to happen on earth. Yes, we're in a fallen world, but what does bringing your kingdom? It's not just like, oh, we're going to get out of here and go to heaven, you know, right? Yes, but there's territory that the enemy's been able to steal from us as believers over the decades, and we're seeing that play out in the natural. And some of that, and that's what I'm asking the Lord in this season. It's like, how much of that has been because, like, you've given that to us, and we're supposed to rule and reign in our territories, right? Like in my family, what am I speaking over my children? What am I praying over them, over my marriage, over my sphere of influence? You know, and it's almost like that shift of, okay, Lord, what do we ask of you versus what have you given us ability to declare and speak? And, you know, as I read some different things about, you know, about that, like it's a wow in the sense of like, Lord, really? And you, but it makes sense, right? Of everything that he did for us on the cross. So,
oh man,
yeah, like it's like, okay, this is deep.
Oh, see, but
Jesus.
I love that.
Yeah,
stuff.
no,
I
but
love
it's
it.
but I mean, how much of that? And I mean, and one of the examples, and I had several people whenever the tornado came through that were speaking and declaring what the word of God says. Like he's not a God of destruction. You can't say he's a God of love, but yet he authors this or what. So I said, I'm like, if you've given us power and authority, all power and authority is Jesus's. We're united with Christ when we are saved. Now we have been restored, all of that. Like in that, what does that fully mean for us as children of God right here, right now? And I think that there's a lot of things that the enemy's been very good at hiding from us.
I think so too. You better believe
and
it.
he doesn't want us to get it because go back, and this is the other, and you can tell me when we need to pause for your commercial break.
Well, you're good. Okay.
But
finish your thought. Then we will.
But when we think about when we read in the New Testament about the disciples and about when Paul, I mean, when they would go into communities, they're going, no, don't bow down to us. No, this. So what were they walking in for people in other communities and places to think that they were gods?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that same thing is available to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's stuff that makes you go, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. It's just like, you know, I like last night. So my sweet friend Martin Morgan came up to me, so he could see during the program, man, I was really hurting. He came up, he goes, I'm gonna pray over you, and he just put his hand on me and said a quick prayer, and I knew that it was within God's power to just lift that to just absolutely like right there, but he didn't. You know, and so part of me wonders, people prayed over my knees before I had them replaced for healing, and they weren't healed. So am I blocking something? What am I doing? Because that power is available to us, but I don't know what we're missing. Because in other countries, I mean, you hear stories from missionaries in third world countries, the blind seeing. I mean, it's incredible, things that you think are not possible. And it's just like, I don't know, but I'm the same way. I'm like, what are we not connecting on, Lord, that we can really have what you have
What you
told
said.
us we
Right.
have available
Yes.
to us.
Right.
So I don't know. But it's just a journey. So,
It is.
but let me go ahead
Yep.
and you're looking something up. So
I
I'm going to go
am.
ahead and do my spot here. I'm going to start with Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty because while I was trying to do their ad yesterday, we got knocked off the air. What happens? Paul was asking me, he goes, what happened with the alarm yesterday? So we're talking, I'm sitting here talking with Catherine from United Way, and all of a sudden this crazy alarm goes off, and we're like, what's going on? And so it was coming from one corner of the room, and so I had her while I was doing my ad, trying to do my ad. I said, go over there and see what it is, and she says, well, it's this. I said, well, turn it off and turn it back on. What it was a battery backup somehow or another that completely shut everything down. So as soon as she hit the button, we went off the air. And so we tried to reboot it, but it took about 15 or 20 minutes for everything to reboot. So that was the end of the show. And so that's what it was. And it was Catherine and we were just laughing because we're like, well, I guess we shouldn't have hit that button, but we had to, because I mean, it was alarming and it was, it was very distracting so I was like, oh, well, so the show got cut a little short yesterday and I got cut off right in the middle of Barry and Rebecca's ad. So let's just love on them right now and just remind you that if you're looking for somebody local in real estate, and Barry and Rebecca will tell you, there's a lot of really good folks that do real estate in the area, but he says, whoever you are, whatever you do, he goes, if you're doing something, he goes, make sure you find somebody that understands our community and the surrounding areas across the state line in Kentucky, because it's all right here, because you need to have somebody that gets it and that fully understands it, that studies it constantly. Rebecca's one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. He came out of a marketing background, huge marketing background. 17 years, he was a vice president of a media marketing company in Nashville. He knows his stuff when it comes to videography, photography, walkthrough tours, drone footage, all those things. He's helped me so much with my audio video class. But they're going to make sure that everything's done in the best proper way, whether you're selling, whether you're buying. They're going to help you every step of the way. Again, they're cross-Palladians. They've been there nearly 30 years, so they specialize in Robertson County, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky because they have worked a lot of diverse areas, and so they know these areas, and they're from Kentucky like me, so they get the nuances of living in a state with an income tax and working in a state that doesn't have one, and how you have to navigate those waters. So he's the broker. He is here in downtown in Springfield. She is an agent. She has an office in White House, but they're part of the Exit team. They are the branch Exit Prime Realty. Exit Prime Realty. If you have questions, give them a call. 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, or go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com. Let them know U-Turn sent you. And continuing on with my sweet friend, Lisa Forte here from she comes in. Her Now happens, and it happens up in Old Hickory. Where? What's it?
We are church. We have refresh nights the first Friday of the month.
Yes.
So doors open at 6:00. Service starts at 7.
What's happening tonight? What's your
We're
husband
doing
cooking?
Well, he's not. We're doing just little snack foods tonight.
Okay.
We're doing something a little different. We're having 4 different speakers. So we're
Okay.
giving I don't know, they get 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay.
So to speak what the Lord's been placing on their hearts. So it'll
All
be
right.
interesting. We intentionally didn't let them discuss amongst themselves what the Lord's been downloading, because it's like, look, if he wants us to hear something 4 times, 4 different ways, but
You bet.
4 times, there's something he's wanting to get across. So no, we're not whispering. You're not sharing your topics with your friends.
Yeah.
So really excited to hear what's coming out of tonight. And something that we're doing a little bit different. When we first started these, Jenny's husband, Brandon, would do the videos for us and get those uploaded. And so we kind of shifted.
Jenny Lipscomb.
I know, Jenny Lipscomb.
friend.
Lipscomb Creative. Give a
Yeah.
shout out to them. But just to make it a little bit easier of a lift in this next season, we're just going to do the audio component. And so start to release the audio portion. So those will be starting
Okay.
to trickle out after next week, so people can hear what the Lord had to say tonight. So we're excited. It's 1501 Hadley Avenue in Old Hickory.
I love that you're doing the audio portion, because
Yes.
that's much more convenient when you're trying to put it up in a podcast format, because that way people can easily access it. I love to follow all these different preachers, and the ones that have a podcast are so much easier for me to tap into and listen to.
Absolutely.
So much easier. And I love being able to follow them. And I just can't get enough of my favorites. And, I will have to start listening, but y'all need to put it in podcast format.
I don't know what he's going to do.
I bet he will.
I don't.
I bet you. Because it's easy to do. And so, yeah, I bet that would be awesome.
That would be
That
awesome.
would be super awesome. Are you going to do the music and the speaking, or just the
Probably just the speaking.
Yeah,
just
'cause
because the
music-
music comes with all of the little.
copyright
Yes.
stuff? Yep. Usage and
yeah,
all of that.
yes,
If you
yes.
broadcast anything with music, you've got to have a license to do that.
Yeah.
As a church, you can do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But in a lot of churches, you're covered on those things, but you got to make sure, and it's, that's why we're so careful about playing music on this show, is because it's on Facebook. And if I play music that's got, now the only thing is, and this is just a little bit of a nuance about copyrights, they've gotten a little bit different lately, because what happens is, as long as you're not monetizing it, if you're not making money off of it,
Right.
a lot of the times they'll let you go ahead and use the music, but just knowing that the artist may monetize off of what you've done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They may tap in if you have something that goes viral, then the artist whose music you've used will be like, I'm going to make some money on that, because it's their work.
Right.
So that has allowed us to use music a little bit more. Just like on some of the stuff I do at school, I'll use popular music, but we don't monetize. So that allows us to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, are you one of the speakers tonight?
No.
Okay. So if you had to do it,
Yes.
what would you talk about? What's
Oh.
your thing?
In 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's
I know, right?
immediately I know what I would talk about, but again, 10 minutes, yeah. I could probably give them
Right.
a synopsis of what I've been working on in 10 minutes, but
Right.
what would be
Well,
yours?
gosh.
I think everybody knows mine. It's the women's roles and things. I'm just,
Yeah.
hot on that right now, but
I don't know. I would have to I think probably we'd either excuse me, tickle my throat. We'd either talk a little bit more about faith or the go part of our assignment.
okay.
Because what I'm finding out in this season is we're kind of stuck on the go. What does go look like? What does go, as far as your sphere of influence and different places that you can.
I like that. Yeah.
But again, that's probably longer than 10 minutes, but it would be more that challenge, hey, what is that space? And yes, it's great to serve. I'm not telling people not to serve in their local churches, but we're supposed to go. And what does that go look like? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you stand out on a street corner with a poster board, because you've been planted in different spheres already to have that influence.
Right.
And so, it's
what does that look like?
what does it look like?
Yeah.
Right? Because I think in our minds, we've painted it to look like something different. And my husband and I had this conversation years ago, because we've gotten used to using this terminology, full-time ministry.
Yeah.
Well, you're hello, everybody who says
Thank
they
you.
love Jesus is in full-time ministry.
Yes.
You might not get a paycheck from the church, but you're a full-time minister of the
Yes, you
gospel,
are.
period. And then what is that, what does that look like? Because there's days that and I mean, in all reality, if somebody wanted to label, you are pastoring. When you step into your classroom, you are pastoring.
Absolutely.
Are they all saved and born again and filled with the Spirit? No, but you're pastoring. You're shepherding. And you have that opportunity. You get to be an evangelist.
Yep.
You get to be a preacher.
Yep.
You get to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And so, and even in the prophetic thing, you wear each hat: apostle, prophet, teacher, shepherd, evangelist, every day. So even in the prophetic, you're speaking life, you're speaking encouragement. Now, whether you're going, the word says blah, 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 and I'm speaking this over, you're praying over them. And whether that's something that they get to hear with their ears, or you're just speaking and declaring over them. I remember hearing, and this is where I think we get, we really don't understand the timelessness of our words, of our prayers, the weight, again, going back to God created and spoke things into existence. And what does that mean for us as sons and daughters? I remember hearing a pastor share part of his testimony one night, and this has been decades ago, and he's at least a couple decades older than I am. And he said that he remembers his, I don't know if it was 7th grade, 8th grade, Sunday school teacher. Or I don't know if it may have been like their little missions, whatever. At any rate, this older lady, to him, she was really, really old. But he said that she had a book that she would go up to the altar on Wednesday nights, and she would open this notebook or this binder, and that she was just turning the page. Well, he was like, me and my friends were sitting back, oh, Mrs. So-and-so's up there. So they dared him, like, go up there and pretend like you're praying and see what she's got in her notebook. And so he got the short straw, and he said he went up there to pretend like he was praying next to her. And he said every single page had a picture of her students and whatever notes she had, and every Wednesday. And he said,
wow,
that and I don't remember the number, but this is what's crazy.
I love that.
Well, I don't know how many kids, like, I know it was more than 20 students. And I think they were all the boys, like she had the boys. But when he started giving the statistics of how many of them wound up as pastors, missionaries, and like, know, yes. And even, hey, but even though this person is in corporate, this is what they're doing, and this is how and so just that kingdom impact.
Crazy. My apologies.
It is crazy.
I thought I had this turned off. But anyway, that is a cool story.
So yeah, I mean, so we think about like what, and I feel like sometimes as believers, like we want to hit the escape button because we're not in a Christian environment in our workplace, or we're not in a Christian environment. I'm supposed to be somewhere else, and it's like probably not. He's put you there for this time, this season, to bring His kingdom, and to even declare. I mean, the prayers that you pray over your students, or over the classroom, or when we're in the workplace, or just the opportunity that we get one-on-one with people. It's just huge. So we're always, and I think that's the other thing too. It's like that reminder where they're planting seeds or watering, yes, sometimes we get to be part of that harvest and seeing all three of it, but you may be watering and watering and watering, and 20 years later, somebody else gets the harvest of that, but you still have poured into, that life change,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And man, that just brings so many thoughts to mind. I just, oh man, that's so cool, because, and I just keep coming back to the fact that this is kind of echoing off of what you just said, how that, if I were to have to come up and say, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about for 10 minutes, it's about who we are as men and women together serving and ministering. And something you said to me is, you don't have to have a pulpit to be a minister. It's just what you just said. And that's something that really has struck me. And you just serve where you are. We're all full-time ministers. I just love all that. Just echoing amen to what you just said, because that's just so true. Yeah. So true. I love that.
But this is the thing that I think is beautiful about what He's put as on your heart and passion. And that is, you have a microphone. Yeah. You have a pulpit. Yeah. It's just the pulpit doesn't look like.
It doesn't look like what I was expecting it to.
But I mean, look when we step back, and not in a prideful way, but when we step back and we look at what doors He's opened to us, and even in places that we couldn't even begin to think or imagine. Sometimes we're too busy going, this isn't what I thought it was going to look like, to miss that. But I put you here. And I mean, and that's been what's crazy. When I go back, I didn't, since I've been here with you, I've had to do a short email to my mom to go, okay, here's some updates to share with your friends, because they're asking like, what's going on? And so I'm going, okay, so this, Lord, what have we done in 2024? And I probably need to do this more often, because I'm starting to write it and I'm like, oh, whoa, like we've been busy, but it doesn't seem like that. And it got to the point where I'm laughing, because I'm like, only you. So let's rewind, because I'm going, okay, well, let's rewind. What do we happen? Oh, yeah, Rachel invited me to the radio show. Yeah. And And then like LaVern invites me to come. I'm like, that was never ever. And I was teasing with a friend yesterday. I'm like, I had no idea when I said yes that radio was now visual. And I'm thinking like you're like, we need to do the blurred out face, right? There's like a like, so it's like
adorable.
I know when it was just like,
funny.
wait, in my brain, Lord. But and then another one of those weird aha. I had an opportunity, a crazy, amazing, beautiful opportunity, to be at Leadership Sumner. They had their kickoff the first Saturday of September. And so I went to fill in for a friend of mine who was asked to speak. And she was like, this is the only one I couldn't be there. So I was on a panel. And as I was sitting there and I was like listening, first of all, I'm like, I didn't know Leadership Sumner existed until like the week before, right? And I'm going, okay. So I'm getting to meet some new people, and it was just beautiful and wonderful. And I was one of 4 on the panel. But this is what's crazy is when my friend asked me, and she had submitted my name and the committee had said yes, or before they said yes, she was like, I'm submitting your name. Holly will turn that in, but here's the email. And so I'm reading the email that they sent to her, and I'm like, I don't get a seat at that table. Like, these are people that like, and I'm going through, I'm like, no. And so because she had group texted me with the lady that was submitting and kind of on that committee, 3 different times on Sunday, I'm texting this woman separately to tell her why. Like, I read the email that like, whatever, like, here's my reasons. And every time I'd go to hit send, the Holy Spirit's like, don't you do it. And I'm like, but he was like, they wrote the email. They are aware. You wait until they say that you're not welcome.
Yeah.
Don't you dare. And I'm like 3 times. I'm like, fine. But I want to tell him I'm not supposed to be there. And he was like, so Sunday night I get the text saying, hey, yay, come on, welcome to the party. And, but whenever they're going through the introductions, like I'm the last one, but everybody's going, well, I'm from the class of whatever and whatever. And I'm like, Lord, so I get it. Like,
we do.
I am not from a class. I'm like, and I even, I'm like, I'm just completely honest. I'm like, I didn't know you all existed until like a week ago. This is fabulous. This is wonderful. It's like, I'm your backup quarterback, so-and-so is supposed to be here today. And she was unable to make it, it's just like, so it's an honor and privilege to be able to be there. But my speaking point was because of Leading Redeem, and they had asked me to speak on servant leadership. I had 15 minutes, I think. So that one was a little bit, but I had 3 different questions that they wanted answered. It was, how did you get started? Who is your greatest influencer, and what would you give to these future leaders? Like, what advice would you give? And I'm like, and as I was preparing, I'm like, I'm not gonna ask for permission, because I can't talk about this and not say Jesus Christ all over it. Like, how I got started is because he told me to. Like,
exactly.
all of the things. And so it just was, again, but I had a great time. It was amazing. And so I'm sitting there, but as I'm writing my own email, and I'm laughing about, like, Lord, you've put me in places that I never thought to ask you about. I never thought, in my dreams, like, that was not something I needed to like check the box off. But between the people, and it really is about the people that I get connected to, right? Like, it's just like, wow, okay. And then to go, okay, so what's next? And so what out of that, who becomes a connect point for whatever, and not even about me, I'm not going and going, okay, who's some redeemed fruit that we get? No, it's like, Lord, you've just connected me to a whole different group of people that I would never on a daily basis touch. Okay, what, who, what's, what, in that. And so, whether that's encouraging somebody, whatever that connect point comes out of it, if it's just practice again for me saying yes to like crazy, absurd things that I didn't, but it was just, so it's been, I think, that would be one of the encouraging things too for people, is like, look back and see what the Lord's done. Look back, and even in the small details where you think, what? Because I heard someone, it was actually a woman who was preaching a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about that, like, keeping the record, right? But she was like, our God's a demonstrative God. She said, imagine the Bible without those testimonies. Imagine the Bible without parting the Red Sea or raising the dead. Like, if we took all of the expressions of his power and his grace and his mercy and his love out of the word, I'm like, ooh, yeah, right. And so that expectation goes back to what we were saying before, that expectation of what we get to walk in. I'll pull up what I read this week. So one of the people that I've been reading about was Lillian Yeomans, and she was a physician, I think in the early 1900s. I may be misquoting. Anyway, she was addicted to morphine and some other substance, like crazy addicted. The Lord set her free, radically healed her, and she put down her medical practice and walked in a healing evangelist role for years. And so she's written some books. So now I'm reading her healing books, right? It's like, okay, this is really cool. So I'm enjoying this journey. But one of the books of hers that I'm reading, this paragraph just really kind of, this is what I've been sitting with too, but it kind of goes back. This is challenging, right? She's talking about resisting the enemy, and the louder he roars, the more vigorously we resist, because that's what the word tells us to do. But her point out to us as believers is that we get stuck in doubt and unbelief, right? So this is what she says about, she's going into the garden. She said, but alas, Eve did not resist, but allowed Satan to instill doubt, which matured into unbelief and developed into disobedience. And as a result, sin, sickness, sorrow, and death entered into the world. So if Jesus has restored everything back to me, an original, where am I allowing Satan to instill doubt that matures into unbelief, that develops into disobedience, or goes against what his word says about me, so that sin, sickness, sorrow, death enters into my sphere, right? And sometimes, and this is the hard part, because sometimes it's like, okay, sometimes that means, and as I'm asking the Lord, sometimes that means, okay, but what if my body's talking to me? Well, it's that challenge of like, well, and this is me personally, where I'm walking with him. It's like, Lord, do symptoms talk louder than the word of God? Does this speak louder than what and so it's like that. I think as we press in and we mature in our walk with him, and we become like, we want to walk by the Spirit, not by natural sight, how I think, see, feel, not by my five senses, but from the Spirit. Like, Lord, what does that look like? And there's always going to be war, right, between the Spirit and the flesh, and even what we think we perceive in our five senses. So yeah, there's a lot that it's like, Lord, help me understand. Help me, because my brain cannot process that. So what is my spirit man saying? And then line everything up from my spirit out according to your word.
Yeah. So funny, but here's the thing, you're asking the questions. And some of the things I love to study from a Middle Eastern perspective. I love to look into it from that avenue. And one of the things that comes up again and again is that Jewish people, they do not hold people up with being the super smart and the super intellectual and the super knowledgeable that have all the answers, but the ones who ask the most questions. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're supposed to do, is keep asking the questions and keep asking the questions. So you're doing exactly the right thing. And that's the thing that and don't stop asking the questions. I had some clarity just in the last 24 hours on some things I've been asking. It just like, boom. I'm like, oh, but then it just opens up more questions. But that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to wrestle with what he has for us.
Right.
I think the story of Jacob wrestling with God, right? I think that story is there to say, wrestle with me. Yeah. Wrestle with me. Try to understand, because if you stop wrestling, you're not growing anymore. and just wrestling with these answers. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yes.
everything that you're saying,
Yes.
it's just like that's that wrestling match that's supposed to be ongoing in us. And while I'll have something that I'll wrestle with for years, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, and then it again just makes more questions come in. The also in like the rabbinical, the Jewish way is whenever they come up with a question that they're like, well, I don't get this, God. I need to understand this better. They don't wring their hands and worry over the question. They dance for the moment whenever he'll reveal it to them. You know, they're like, yeah, it's going to be something new I'm going to get to learn. Does that make sense? Yeah, I just love all this stuff. It is so good. Oh,
Well, and I mean, how much like our worship, our heart position, right? Like, and how much of it's just this little itty bitty shift of, walking from a place of victory, and what does that look like, and what does that sound like? One of the things when I was asking the Lord about this morning, and this just ties into it. I know we've got just a few more minutes, but one of the things earlier this week was that was brought up was like his covenant names. And especially as I'm going deeper into the whole healing thing, it's like, look at my covenant names. And one of my covenant names is Jehovah Rapha, for healer. And then so I'm like, okay, well, let's go back. And so it's like, let's go back to what covenant means. And so a covenant in the Bible is a solemn agreement between God and humans, where God makes promises and sets conditions to be fulfilled. So the correct definition, or the Merriam-Webster, one of the dictionary definitions, is a covenant is a formal binding agreement between two or more parties, often involving promises or commitments. In a biblical context, it usually refers to agreements between God and humans, embodying the covenant meaning of a sacred, enduring promise. And then there was another little snippet about what's the difference between promise and covenant. A promise is a simple assurance to do or not do something, whereas a covenant is a formal binding agreement that often includes mutual commitments and legal enforceability. The covenant meaning in both legal and biblical context emphasizes a deeper, more solemn commitment compared to a mere promise. And so when you think about like his covenant names that he has, and that's the homework, right? Like what are all of his covenant names, that changes that perspective. And I think it's, what is it, Numbers? There's, maybe you know that one off the top of your head, but what is the scripture that it says like, God is not man, so he cannot lie? I think it's in Numbers.
Yeah, it's not popping up. I appreciate you thinking that it would, but yeah.
We're still early.
Yeah. But you got it? Maybe?
Yes, Numbers 23:19. Love this one. God is not a man, so he does not lie. He is not human, so he does not change his mind. Has he ever spoken and failed to act? Has he ever promised and not carried it through?
That's good.
And so it's like that with all of the covenant names of who he says. And again, going back to those were given to us Old Testament. Like those are our covenant promises, the covenant promise for provision and protection. Praying Psalms 91 over us and declaring, like really moving into that complete trust in him of he says he is who he says he is, and I think it's a little bit, is it difficult whenever we're here? I mean, this whole week has been between the floods, between the missile attacks and what's going on in Iran and Israel, and then the dock worker, like everything. And like you said, like sometimes we need to shush all of our input and really just soak in his word and his presence and put fingers in our ears and going, what are you saying? Because you say not to fear. You said you're my provider. I don't know how you're going to do it. If you can keep Israelites alive in the desert for how many years? How many years? No Walmarts, no gas stations, no.
Yep.
Then surely, and then it just, in my mind, because of how he's wired me, it's like, okay, well, you are or you aren't. You did or you didn't. This is true or it's false. So rest in you will provide for me. And I think we talked a little bit about it last time. It's like, am I operating out of an orphan mentality, heart place position, or am I pressing in as a son or a daughter?
Amen. Amen. That's right there. Put your crown on. You are a son, a daughter of a king. And we forget that so often. We forget that so often. And we do. That's something Christy McClellan talks a lot about. I don't know if you've ever studied her stuff, but she talks about how that we don't come to the table. She talks a lot about feasting at the table and the word and all that. And she says, we don't come to it as orphans. And so she uses that analogy a lot. And so as soon as you said that, I thought about her lessons I've studied. And we are sons and daughters of the King, and we need to act like it.
Right.
And show that and show others that they have the same ability. I've got to do an ad, and we've got just a few minutes left. Gather your thoughts about anything you want to send people off with this morning. Let me do my ad real quick, and we'll come back. And of course, we got to do the big invite for Redeem Her Now tonight, and all the things. And you said, you were teasing me, I've got to get there in November because Rachel's gonna speak. My sister, she is anointed. Oh my goodness, she's so good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, it'll be wonderful. So, but let's pause for a minute. We're going to talk about Veterans Motorplex. I did manage to get the commercial out for them yesterday before we got knocked off the air, but we are just encouraging you not to delay. You got to get out to Veterans Motorplex because they've only got a few more weekends before the season will be over. I'm hoping. I've put in a reservation for my grandson next Saturday night, not this Saturday night because they're doing something, but next Saturday night I said I really want my oldest grandson so I can take him to the races because it's so much fun. He will have a blast, and I've been trying to get him there all summer, but he's had baseball. So I'm planning on being there next Saturday night with my grandson at the old Highland Rim Speedway. This is Veterans Motorplex at the Rim. This is the historic Highland Rim Speedway. So many of the greats have raced on this track. They did a big renovation at the first of the year. It is beautiful. I've gone by there just to see what's going on, and oh my gosh, it's just awesome. They did such a great job. They're at 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier. It's one of those forgotten treasures for the locals, and for you newbies, you probably didn't even know we have this great racetrack, and it is so much fun. A $40 ticket. This is a family-friendly environment. A $40 ticket will get up to 6 kids and 2 adults in for one ticket price. Great concession stand. The local kids work in the concession stand. So much fun. I've seen my students in there working. A lot of them, it's their first summer job, but it's a great time. Get out to the races before the racing season's over. We're coming close, guys, but you've got a few more weeks to get out and watch the races at Veterans Motorplex at the Rim, the historic Highland Rim Speedway. Be sure and follow them at Highland Rim Speedway so you know all the details about the racing coming up. And if it rains, they have to postpone or cancel or delay or something like that. We had to cancel last weekend because of all the rain, but just follow them at Highland Rim Speedway, and that way you'll know everything that's going on for Veterans Motorplex at the Rim. Always please let them know that U-Turn sent you, and Lisa, it's all you now. What do you want to say on the way out?
If they're able to make it. But I think there's the big thing to sign off with today is just that encouragement of just being in the Word, being still with Him. Whenever you feel like things are spinning a little out of control or things feel overwhelming, just that re-centeredness. His promise is peace. His promise is peace.
His promise and His peace. That's what He's called us to. Yeah. And it's like, let's kind of end where we started, talking about, your kingdom come, your will be done. Our job as Christians, guys, is to understand that we do not have to wait until our death from this life to be in kingdom.
Yes.
We can live in kingdom right now. I had one of my students say to me the other day, because, they know I work in ministry and all that. And so they'll say Jesus thanks to me. And one of them looked at me, he says, man, he goes, with all this going on, I think it's just time for Jesus to come back. And I said, well, you don't have to wait until He comes to live in kingdom. You can live in kingdom right now. And he looked at me kind of perplexed. We don't teach that enough. You can. That the broad is the way that leads to destruction, and narrow is the path that leads to life everlasting, and few find it. It's not that a few are going to get to heaven, guys. I believe with all my heart what He meant when Christ said that is that only a few are really going to find what kingdom looks like here on this earth. Yeah, I think that's what that's talking about. Because I got news for you. The grace of God, there's going to be a whole lot more people in heaven than you realized. It's not as elite as you think it is. It's elite, yes, because we have to know Jesus.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, he wants none to perish, none.
Right.
And few there be that find it. It's about what you're finding here on earth, and we're just not living in kingdom. We are sons and daughters of the King. You can live in kingdom right now if you choose to seek that and share that with others.
Absolutely.
Love you, sister. Tell them again where you are, what time, all the things for tonight.
We are at We Are Church.
Yes.
1501 Hadley Avenue in Old Hickory. Doors open at 6 p.m. Service starts at 7. And we would love to have you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Love
you.
my sister, Lisa Forte. And I'm going to put it on my calendar for next month for. Thank you guys. Now, remember, I'm